Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Michigan Prep Frenzy podcast. I'm Brayden at Mi Gameday, joined as always by Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler from Michigan Prep Frenzy at MICHFB Frenzy on Twitter. Then I've got work up on MI Game Day and Prep Red Zone as well.
All right, well, today we are going over some of our biggest movers from week 1 to week 2 in our rankings, as well as some of our big marquee matchups going into week 2. Got some good games, got some pretty interesting shakeups, so let's jump right into it. We've got Granville up 8 to number 14 after their 44-40 win over Muskegon.
Yeah, huge domination by Granville. I was a little surprised maybe at the high scoring affair that it was. I figured both of those teams would maybe struggle out of the gate offensively early, but Tank Terry just came out and tore him a new one, almost 300 yards rushing, a few touchdowns. So, yeah, huge week for them. It felt like this whole week was a big shakeup in the rankings just because it was a lot of recalibration for the pollsters. Lots of recalibrating expectations for some of them. So, yeah, no change in the top 4, but yeah, some big movers like Granville up there.
Yeah, for sure. Got Notre Dame Prep. They're up 7 spots to number 18 after they blew out Detroit Central. West Bloomfield coming up 7 to number 34 after they shut out Fordson.
Yeah, that's a huge one as well. I was kind of looking forward to West Bloomfield, seeing what they did. I know they've had a couple down years, I guess you would call it, by their standards. So yeah, that's a big one in week 1.
Yeah, a couple more here. We got Grand Rapids Northview up 7 to number 42 after they took down Grand Rapids West Catholic.
Yeah, big comeback for them. They kind of seemed to struggle out the gates, but turned it around and came up with a huge win. And that, I think, that woke a lot of the people up voting in the polls. I think that kind of woke up everyone to what they did last year. Maybe it wasn't a flash in the pan.
Yeah, we got Clarkston, obviously, after their marquee win over Belleville in week 1. They're up 5 to number 5. We also have, in similar fashion, Hudsonville Unity Christian jumping up to number 29 after beating down Whitehall. Dexter up 4 after they took down Brighton. Grand Blanc up 4 to number 9 after a pretty impressive handling of Mona Shores.
Yeah. Those are some really good. All of those had really good offensive performances to start the season. I mean, UD Christian hanging 55, Dexter hanging 50, Grand Blanc scoring, seemingly at will, kind of showing off their offensive firepower. So lots of offense early out of a couple of these teams, and that seemed to kind of convince some of the voters on where they think they should be ranked.
Yeah, pollsters definitely taking a liking to these high-powered offenses, showing a little bit of love to some teams with their dominant defenses getting the shutouts, but definitely seems to be a pattern here with these teams getting these 40, 50-point games climbing up pretty easy.
Yeah. Even like a couple of teams like East Kentwood was up 5 spots. Oxford went up 6. They were as high powered offense there, but still pretty good performances. And then Goodrich as well kind of slid up 4 spots after their impressive win over Frankenmuth.
Yeah, that one much more of a defensive battle, especially leading into that fourth quarter. Very tight game.
No surprises there that was kind of a slugfest.
No, more or less what everybody expected out of those two.
Yeah.
Couple of really solid teams that they play great defense, great fundamentals, move the ball well on the ground.
Yes, yeah. Both teams want to control the clock, so I'm sure that game got over fast.
Oh, yeah. Then looking at the other side, we've got some teams that are sliding, starting with Mona Shores. They're down 10 to number 22 after that loss to Grand Blanc.
Yeah, no surprise. I think that was one of those that, got put up there pretty high, and I think everyone has kind of switched what they're expecting out of Mona Shores this season. Not to say they can't still, do really good things, but I think that people kind of reevaluated, is this really a top 10, top 15 team? So I think them sliding back down to 22 is probably closer to where they should be right now.
Yeah, definitely difference maker when it comes to that top 20 range. You're not going to see a lot of teams that are capable of getting blown out like that. You're going to see teams that can lose. There's always going to be some, but showing like Mona Shores in week one, obviously there's time to correct, but not what you'd normally expect from that caliber of team.
Yep, exactly.
And similarly, we've got Belleville down 11 to number 26 after their loss to Clarkston.
Yeah. The polls were kind of split on this one, just based on, the ballots that we did see. A lot of people were like, "Oh man, Belleville's going to reload; they're going to be fine." And then the other half were like, "Well, they lost Bryce Underwood and they graduated; they're going to be young this year, only a few seniors." So it was really split. But I think the scales finally tipped in the other direction after seeing what they did in week one against Clarkston.
Yeah, I was one of those pollsters that had them up probably a little bit higher than anybody else. I really thought that they would be one of those teams that they had the talent and the coaching to reload.
Yeah.
Was pretty disappointed in that game. I thought that at the very least there'd be more of a fight there. Obviously, great for Clarkston, great win for them. Really sets them up well to kick off the season. But yeah, definitely had to adjust my rankings there with Belleville.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a couple teams also that maybe not punished is the right word, but a couple teams that had wins but still kind of moved down. Macomb, Dakota, down 4 spots to number 10, even though, they had a close win over Brother Rice. But on the other end, I mean, we'll get into it a little later, but Brother Rice, that performance snuck them back into the rankings. And then Howell down 4 to number 23, even though they beat TC West by 10. So that one might be more of they just got jumped by some impressive performances. I don't think they necessarily did anything that scared the voters or anything like that. I think it was more just they got kind of jumped, leapfrogged by some of the more higher caliber teams.
Yeah, definitely with Granville, Notre Dame both joining the top 20, seeing some teams like East Kentwood, they're up to 19, and
Mm-hmm.
even Hudsonville Unity Christian jumping up to 29. For some of the pollsters, it's not so much a matter of a convincing win or loss, but more some of these really impressive results just merit some of these other teams jumping. And some of these results, some of the teams in front of them that lost, they're cutting them a little slack. Week one, definitely don't want to overreact, but yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunate for Dakota, but uh,
I think they're still going to be all right.
yeah, they're gonna be just fine, I think.
Yeah, a couple teams that moved a lot in the wrong direction. Roseville was down 9 spots, number 44, after their loss to Davison. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit surprised by that one, just because I don't think there was much else that they could do. I mean, Davison's a juggernaut. I mean, I don't think that they should necessarily be punished by it, but obviously a couple people didn't care for that performance. And then Brighton moved down 8 spots to number 46 after obviously we've talked about it. Them getting kind of handled at home, giving up 50 points to Dexter in week one. So a couple big moves there, and then finally Lake Orion. This one might just
Boy,
have been a recalibration or some, I don't know, but Lake Orion slid 17 spots down to number 43 after their 1 point loss to Northville.
yeah, that one definitely took me by surprise. As far as Brighton moving down, I was pretty in line with the other voters there.
Yeah.
For me, Roseville, I kept them right about where they were. I had them in the low 40s and just tried to keep them around there because hard to punish them for a loss to just an elite Davison team.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely agree. I was surprised to see them kind of get slid that far.
Yeah, and really hard to say that that Lake Orion adjustment is anything other than pollsters just looking at the other voters and realizing that, hey, I'm not necessarily in line with the consensus, so maybe I need to reevaluate and got them to take another look, especially after, albeit close, a loss.
Yeah, but on the other side, Northville, who ended up winning that game by one, came from being unranked and jumped all the way up to number 35. So I guess, yeah, you would say that that was probably a readjustment by the voters there on that one, and probably the right move.
Oh yeah, definitely good to see them join the rankings. Same thing with Portage Central jumping up to 36 after just dominating East Lansing.
Yep.
Also great to see Brother Rice. They didn't snag a win, but they hung with Dakota for 4 quarters, made it a very close game.
Yeah.
That was good enough for them to jump into the ranks for some of the voters, clearly.
Yeah, yeah, and I was one of them. Brother Rice, they were kind of teetering for me, anyways, right on that line. I think I actually might have had them in my preseason, just because I thought that they would be way more competitive. I think that young core is just. I think there's just so much potential that they're just gonna win some games this year, just purely based on talent. Um,
Oh, for sure.
but yeah, just good for them to hang around with Dakota and you know put a scare into them. I'm guessing in 9 weeks from now, if you replay that game, you might get a different result.
Yeah. And they were, for me, a team that I had them sitting just outside. I like to go and do kind of my next 10 in
Yeah,
when I do my rankings, and I had them in that next group, but really I wanted to see what they would do against an established power like Dakota.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that what they did was really good. Um, Another one that kind of jumped out to me was Lowell jumping in. They come in at number 49. They come in after playing I mean, just pure 4 quarters, beating EGR 40 to 7. Really good performance by them in week one. Another one where their offense seemed to kind of click early and um, kind of was enough to scoot them into the top 50.
Yeah, I actually was surprised to see him only at 49. I thought that that win over East Grand Rapids would do enough to push them up into maybe even the 30s. But either way, nice to see them join the ranks. And right alongside them at number 50 was Niles. They had a really solid win over St. Joseph, beating them out 28-18 and just sneaking their way in there.
Yeah, yeah. Niles is another one that I kind of had sitting on the edge. I didn't know what to do with. Um, Obviously, they made it to Ford Field last year, but they graduated quite a bit, so I wasn't exactly sure what to do with them. They jump up from D4 to D3 this year. That was another factor that kind of played into it, but I think that kind of a win just kind of instilled confidence in people like, oh, yeah, no, Niles is going to be one of those teams again this year. So good win for them, and that kind of stamps them as a contender this year.
Yeah, good to see them joining, especially, like you said, after that trip to Ford Field last year. Um, Team that I had ranked, albeit low 40s for my preseason poll, but nice win over St. Joseph. Just a good way to establish themselves to start out the season.
Yeah, yeah, big time. Those are two really good teams there, and for them to get a win, that's a huge start to the season.
All right, with our big movers out of the way, why don't you take us into our big matchups for week 2?
Yeah, yeah, we got some ranked matchups. We got number 14 Granville heading to number one Cass Tech. I was surprised. This is their first ever meeting. I was kind of surprised by that. But Cass Tech kind of squeaked by a Toledo Central Catholic squad. Um, Basically was a couple feet on a field goal away from losing that game. So good on them. They survive. And then Granville, we just talked about, kind of doing a really good job of playing shootout with Muskegon and getting the win. Um, we'll see how Tank Terry kind of follows up that performance. And I mean, talented Cass Tech, but I mean, Granville's always going to be battle tested. So this is a huge week 2 matchup.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely want to see how this super talented Cast Tech team is able to play against a Greenville team that's been tested and been able to stretch their legs a little bit more against that Muskegon team.
Yeah.
Also, very excited to see how Tank follows up his just incredible week 1 performance.
Yeah, no, I would not be shocked if he puts up another 200 plus yards. But this will be a challenge for Cass Tech to stay disciplined against that style offense, and for them to kind of play smash mouth backyard football against a team coming from West Michigan. I think that'll be a really interesting challenge for them to. I mean, we heard it from Detroit King last year at state finals when they talked about playing against Zeeland West, and they were like, it's just hard to, you know, ram your head into the wall for 4 quarters. Eventually it wears you down, and it'll be interesting to see if the talent matches up with kind of the discipline of maintaining your gaps and kind of just dominating up line of scrimmage.
Yeah, love the scheme matchup there. It's a huge equalizer for these teams, and
Yeah,
always exciting to see these cross-state matchups. A Grand Rapids area team coming to take the Detroit area team on.
yeah,
Saw the same thing last week with Saline at Rockford.
yeah,
There's just always a little bit of bragging rights there up for grabs.
yeah,
Fun
one
to
thousand
see.
percent. That'll be fun.
All right, next we got number 4 De La Salle at number 12 Davison.
Yeah. This is the third season they've matched up against each other. Davison kind of got the better of them in 2023, and then De La Salle got them last season. So I think this one could be kind of a shootout as well. I know I predicted that with Davison last week. But yeah, I think this one could be kind of a shootout too. Two really good offenses that both put up really good numbers in week 1. Lesser competition maybe, but I think this one should be really fun, maybe up and down the field as well.
Yeah, definitely going to be a pretty points heavy game, I think. We saw De La Salle just, I mean, absolutely beating down Hamtramck, 65-8. Davison beating that Roseville team that, we agreed, and they probably didn't get quite the respect they should have this week in the polls. So it'll be great to see, another one of these teams that's a little bit more tested against a team that's just been outstretching their legs.
Yeah, this is a marquee game between two really good teams that in their respective divisions will probably make a deep playoff run, probably be there in the regionals or semifinals. So this is a high level game, prolific offenses. It should be a blast.
Yeah. Next, we got another annual matchup that is just always a must watch. And that would be number 41 Mason at number 13 DeWitt. This is the 30th meeting between the two teams, with DeWitt leading the series 17-12. DeWitt took control early last year and never looked back in a 55-21 win. But it'll be interesting to see what we do or what we see here from DeWitt after the Larner brothers.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I know they've made a switch at quarterback. They've got more of kind of an athlete there, kind of doing a dual threat type of deal. But I wouldn't be surprised if they still, hang quite a few points and can really get up and down the field. But Mason, perennial, really good team. It'll be kind of a physical game, I would guess, kind of like it was last year. Even though it wasn't super close, both teams were incredibly physical. But neither one of them wanted to give an inch of the line of scrimmage. It kind of just came down to speed and space, and I think Larner kind of did his deal and was kind of able to stretch the field himself. But I think this year will be a little bit different. I think this game's probably a lot closer than it was last year.
Yeah, and this Mason team probably hungry for a bit of revenge after getting that, what was that, a 34-point loss there.
Yeah.
really interesting to see because, I mean, last season when we saw this game, like you said, it was closer than the score really showed, and it felt like the difference maker for the game came down to the Larner brothers, the
Yeah.
connections that they had, uh, just crazy athletic, both of them. But this DeWitt team, I like their new quarterback. Like you said, a lot more of a dual threat type of guy, but very physical downhill runner. Had a great game against Haslett. They took them down 21-3, and just an absolute battle at the line of scrimmage between those two. So excited to see what they show against Mason, and curious if Mason comes out with a bit of an attitude on this one.
Yeah, yeah, probably a bit of a chip on the shoulder after last year. I wouldn't be shocked if this one gets a little bit chippy at times.
All right, next we got number 25 Harper Woods at number 5 Clarkston.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Harper Woods playing up a couple divisions, but I mean, not lacking in talent at all. I mean, they've got D1 guys from their senior class all the way down to freshmen with D1 offers. So extremely talented matchup. But yeah, I think both teams are going to come in kind of confident after their week ones. This will really come down to the Bowman brothers versus like DeAndre Bidden and Dakota Grant. I think this one's going to be really fun. Just speed in space, stretching the field. I don't know if I'm ready to call it a shootout yet, but I think you'll see some really high level football in this one.
Yeah, and really, this is probably my favorite quarterback matchup, and probably a matchup of two quarterbacks that people would have the most difficulty with the names of in the state.
Yeah, Alex Washenko versus Nate Rushlow. So
Yeah,
yeah, good quarterback names, good QB matchup. But yeah, both of those guys um, have gotten some attention at the next level. I think both of them could probably play at least at the MAC level. But yeah, both teams are led offensively by really good quarterbacks, but also play really good defense. So I think this one could be really, really interesting. I know Harper Woods may be a little outmatched just with pure depth, being a little bit smaller of a team, but I don't think that they're going to fear Clarkson at all skill wise.
no, and this is one of those where I'm not ready to count Harper Woods out yet, but I know that they're going to be going in here. Just their goal is going to be leaving it all on the field, show that they can at the very least hang with one of these top level schools in the state.
Yeah, 1,000%. That's what's fun about these where they're playing up a couple divisions. Even if they don't win, just being that close sometimes feels like a win.
For sure. Next, we got number 32 River Rouge at number 22 Mona Shores. Both teams here coming off of kind of shaky starts. Rouge struggled with Westland John Glenn, beating them 13-7, while Mona Shores, as we discussed, got dominated by Grand Blanc. This is kind of a big prove it game for both of these teams, and loser, frankly, has a good chance to fall out of the rankings with this. Uh, we're going to see whether Grand Blanc is just that good. See if maybe it's just Mona Shores having a down year. And on the other side, we're going to see whether or not River Rouge can wake up and get the ball moving, or is this going to be another, more pedestrian scoring effort like we saw against John Glenn?
Yeah, yeah. Two teams that, like you said, they're got something to play for here. I mean, both teams still have pretty high expectations for themselves,
Right.
and you know, Rouge coming off, they're in a little bit more of a rebuild with Crowell there now, um, but they still are very talented. There's no reason they can't win games. But putting it all together for fourth quarters, especially against a Mona Shores team that's still going to be really well coached, is going to be tough. So, yeah, I like this matchup just because I think both teams are going to have a chip on their shoulder a little bit about, trying to prove themselves a little bit. So, yeah, I think this one's fun. And yeah, I think whoever loses this one takes a bit of a free fall. Even if they don't fall outside of the top 50, they get a lot closer to that bubble than they'd like.
Yeah, kind of unfortunate, especially considering that, Mona Shores at least would be looking at a couple of losses to high caliber teams, and River Rouge would hate to see them drop too far, being a 1-1 team with a loss to a still top 25 Mona Shores.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for both teams. And it's an interesting matchup. This is another one of those cross state matchups. So yeah, it'll be interesting in that one to see who can kind of get their feet underneath them faster.
Yeah. Next, we have number 37 Oxford at number 17 Birmingham Groves.
Yeah, both teams, solid wins in week one. Oxford, getting Heartland like that was a good win for them. Groves did what they should against a middling U of D Jesuit team. So, yeah, this will probably be the first like legit test for both of them. But these teams can't look ahead because Groves, as we just talked about with Harper Woods, they get Harper Woods next week, and Oxford kicks off OA Red play against Clarkston. So, yeah, you don't want to see either one of these teams start to look ahead because it could end in a blowout because both of these teams are really good. So, if one of these teams doesn't come in focused, it might be curtains for them.
Yeah, this is one that could get ugly fast. Both teams off to a great start, so hoping that they come in focused and give us a good show.
Yeah, and I like Oxford's quarterback, Jack Hendricks. He's a just gamer. He's probably a little undersized, most people would say, recruiting wise. But man, he just plays his ass off, and he's super fast, super smart with the ball. He does just everything really well. Like I said, his big knock is basically just being a little short. But no, I think that he could go out there. I'm looking forward to seeing if he can go out there and have a big game.
Yeah, definitely. Now we are on to number 18, Notre Dame Prep, at number 30, Jackson Lumen Christi. This also happens to be our game of the week.
Yeah. Super excited. I've never been to Lumen Christi. The only times I ever watch them was at Ford Field, so I just
Which,
usually count on that. But really fun game between a couple highly ranked smaller schools. It was only their second time meeting ever. Last year was the first time ever. So yeah, really interesting matchup here. Um, Notre Dame Prep kind of comes in maybe as the favorite after last year. Um, but yeah, they by no means should overlook Jackson Lumen Christi. Jackson Lumen Christi just kind of took it down to the wire with Motini Catholic out of Illinois, who won a state title last season. Um, Same size as basically a D2 school. So just really impressive that they could even hang with them. Their numbers are nowhere near the same. I'm plenty sure those sidelines looked really lopsided.
yeah, definitely playing up to a much larger school out of state, so pretty hard to judge the competition, but either way, a 20-16 loss to a school of that size that clearly has the talent to win a state championship.
Yeah.
Uh, Not anything to concern yourself out if you're looking at Jackson Lumen Christi here.
No.
Um, One thing that really interests me, I like Sam Stowe and the prolific offense, like you said, on Notre Dame's side. I'm curious to see how Jackson Lumen Christi does in kind of this new era for their offense.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Lots of turnover. But man, that's just one of those schools that just seems to reload. They don't. It seems like much more of a program thing. Like it's just plug and play with these guys, and they, pluck the next one from the JV level, and they come in and just perform the same way. So, yeah, I think this game could just be another super high level, really good kind of another run the ball, control the line of scrimmage type of game.
Yeah, and always fun to see, like you said, one of these smaller size schools that still has that ability to just reload year after year. Shows that top to bottom, they've clearly got a pretty healthy football program over there.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. You don't see that too often at all.
All right, moving on to number 21 Byron Center at number 19 East Kentwood.
Yeah. This one's got storylines all over the place. I mean, just two really even teams in the rankings, only separated by a couple spots. And then Tyrone Spencer for East Kentwood, kind of jumping into year two, coming off of a good week one to kind of, freshen up and kind of, coach things out of week one heading into week two. And then you got Byron Center, who, made it to the title game last year from D2. Um, lost to Hudsonville last week, and they certainly don't want to start 0-2. But if you start 0-2 against these two teams, I still don't think it's the end of the world.
No, definitely not what you want to start at, but if there's two teams that you are going to start out with losses to, these aren't bad teams to pick.
No.
Definitely excited to see, like you said, where Tyrone Spencer is year two. Uh, they've got a lot of talent. Obviously, a lot of eyes are going to be on Cade Kaufman on their sideline, seeing what he can do in his second year of this offense. Um, so far, off to a great start after just annihilating Southfield A&T. But curious to see how they do against a team that is a little bit more on their level.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this one, I mean, it's funny to think about playoffs in week two, but you think about, if East Kentwood goes out there and loses to a D2 school, I mean, albeit a good one, you know, then you start seeing like, oh man, you get punished in that. We call it like the MAC Red district basically because it's usually three or four teams out of that conference that or OK Red, sorry. But yeah, they basically have, four teams in there every year. You do not want to be the one that draws the short end of the stick and has to travel to the one seed there. So,
All right, next we've got another really interesting matchup between number 20 Rockford at number 28 Muskegon. This is a pretty big, what feels like a must-win game for both of these teams. That they both came in week one, had really hard-fought battles against top-level opponents. We saw Rockford, unfortunately, taking their loss to Saline, and it was a great match between the two of them, but someone had to lose. And seeing on the opposite side of this, Muskegon coming in, and again, just an absolutely outstanding performance, and just didn't come away with the win. Really going to be disappointing for one of these teams to start 0-2, but regardless of who wins and loses, we're probably looking at far and away the best 0-2 team in the state.
yeah, seriously. I mean, you can't ask for a much more difficult schedule for these two teams to kind of start off the season with. And, neither one of these teams, like you said, really want to start off 0-2. You start kind of rethinking in your mind what you expect out of these teams. I mean, these are two teams that typically are playing late into the playoffs. So tons of similarities between the two. Both kind of
Mm-hmm.
had odd seasons last year. You could probably call them down season for Rockford, definitely a down season for Muskegon. And it's kind of more of the same for Muskegon where they're super close, to these big time marquee wins and they just
Mm-hmm.
can't get over the hump. That's really the difference last year. There was, three or four examples of them playing really tight games with really good teams and they still at 3 wins almost got in the playoffs. If they could have got over the hump and beat one of those teams, they would have been in. So definitely don't want to start 0-2 again and be staring down the same situation again.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of parallels between these two teams, so definitely one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for
Up,
sure.
up next, we got number 36 Portage Central at number 47 Forest Hills Central. This is the 10th meeting between the teams. Uh, Definitely a fun matchup. Unfortunately for Portage Central, they are only 1-9 in the matchup, but definitely something that they're probably hearing a lot in the locker room and going to give them a nice chip on the shoulder heading into this one.
Yeah, and it seems about as winnable as ever. I mean, Forest Hill Central not down by any means, but definitely not to the state championship level they were a couple of years ago. Still some turnover there from the retirement of Coach Rogers. So yeah, still lots to be decided over there. And Portage Central has to be coming in feeling really good after last week. Just rolling East Lansing like they did. So yeah, this one should be a really fun one.
Yeah, very interested to see how Portage Central follows that up. It's a lot easier to be the hunter than it is to be the hunted. So if they can come in here and follow up a big win and show that it's not a fluke, they belong, it should be a fun team to watch the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Getting into some of like the marquee games, maybe a little outside of the rankings. We got a BWAC conference game. Crosswell Lexington's traveling to Armada. Cross Lex kind of had a big time week one, scoring 55, beating Swan Valley 55-35. So good for them. Armada a little lower scoring, but probably maybe a higher quality playing against Marine City, and they were able to edge out the win. So it'll be interesting to see if who wins, whether it's the Cross Lexington offense or if Armada's defense kind of is able to slow them down and kind of keep them in it.
Yeah, another one of these matchups that they're not huge schools. They're not necessarily ranked or super uh, talented looking at the collegiate level, but there's still a couple of very well coached teams that have players on both sides. Like you said,
Yep.
it's going to be an offense versus defense matchup, strength against strength. Uh, I'm pretty curious to see who comes out on top because got a feeling that they are going to put themselves in a pretty good spot. Like you said, a little early to be looking at the playoffs, but going to feel good for the winner either way.
Yeah. No, you start looking, and that's another one that you start getting matched up with a couple of the teams you had to play in the regular season, and they always say it's incredibly difficult to beat the same team twice in one season.
Mhm.
It just is. We see it all the time. I mean, we see it over in on the west side all the time. We talked about the OK Red. They'll beat a team in the regular season, and then they turn around and lose to them. I mean, Rockford did it a couple of years ago. I think they beat Caledonia in week 9 and then had to play them in the playoffs the next week and lost. So it just is one of those things. It's difficult to beat a team twice. So if you can accumulate points and get any advantage that you can, it's huge.
Yeah. Up next, we got number 26 Belleville heading over to Dearborn Fordson. Belleville looking at a possible 0-2 start for the first time since 2011. Fordson got blown out by a very solid West Bloomfield team. Obviously, a series that Belleville has dominated as of late, but Fordson leads the series all time, and they've got about as good of a chance as ever to get back on top in this one.
Yeah. Belleville's got to come out and punch these guys in the mouth early. I mean, you cannot get physically dominated like that and then come out and lay an egg in week two. It's just, you can't do it. So this could be a good, kind of free throw for them. Could be a get right game. But boy, if you lose or even struggle, it could be really bad for your confidence. And I mean, could just be bad for the season overall.
Yeah, this also feels like one of those games where Belleville needs to be heading in and focused on not letting Clarkston beat them twice.
Yes.
Don't slide, don't stumble. Just take the punch, show you can get back up, and get right back in this fight.
Yeah, 100%. And they've got all the talent in the world to do it. It'll be interesting if they can put it together and kind of get that thing humming like it has been.
Yep. Next, we have Midland Dow at your darling Saginaw Heritage.
Yeah, man. Rough week one, 35-13, lost to Mount Pleasant. I didn't see it coming at all. That was kind of my preseason, kind of sleeper. Everything sounded really good over there. Sounded like a lot of people were really liking what they saw out of them, and it just doesn't seem like they put it all together in week one. And, that's not the end of the world. I mean, you can still play, high level football later in the season, even if with a week one loss. So they're going to have their work cut out with Dow. That's going to be an interesting one. Dow lost 28-27 in this one. So they're going to have, a chip on their shoulder. They lost in the playoffs as well. So it'll be interesting to see, kind of the motivation factor and if they come out and go after Saginaw Heritage. But yeah, them starting 0-2 would not be what I had, at the beginning of the season at all.
No, team that you and I both had pretty high regards for heading into the season. So
Yeah.
would like to see him bounce back here. Always nice to see teams kind of get right. But Dow, they've got a chance to cruise to a nice 2-0 start, get themselves feeling good, and ready to finish out the rest of their season.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they looked good last week against Fenton. So, yeah, no, there's no reason that they can't come out here and get a win. And I mean, sitting at 2-0 with wins over Saginaw Heritage and Fenton to start the season, I'm sure they would have taken that if you told them 2 weeks ago that's where they'd be sitting. So, yeah, should be a good time for them.
I'm going to let you take us into the next one.
Yeah, this one's kind of a fun one. And we like the small town games. We like the small town matchups. So, yeah, Brayden is a proud St. Louis Shark, so he doesn't care for Ithaca. But Ithaca at Lawton this week should be a fun one. Surprisingly, this is the only matchup between the two teams, despite both of them being really solid recently. I would have thought that they had run into each other, recently, but they haven't. So Ithaca, I mean, did what they're supposed to against St. Louis last week, 57-0. and Lawton, beat Decatur. That's a tough team. So, yeah, this could be a legit playoff matchup later on in the season in the D7 playoffs. So this could be kind of a preview of things to come later in the season.
Yeah, all biases aside, Lawton's going to win this game by 50.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
No, this Ithaca team is, as always, really good. Like you said, they did what they're supposed to against St. Louis.
Yep.
Did what they seemingly do every year. Not hit 70, but make sure that everyone on the St. Louis sideline knows that they can.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, no, that's just what they do there. Coach Hesbrook, the next Hesbrook, Jordan Hesbrook, has just kind of taken that program and ran with it. He took it over with incredibly high expectations. Team that went on an insane winning streak and won all these state titles. So to take that and kind of have the Hesbrook name kind of weighing on you and you just grab the program and run with it and continue to be really good that says a lot about that kind of program.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch my rival win 4 straight titles while I was in high school.
I'm sure it was.
All right, next we got Portage Northern at Midland. Big opportunity here for Portage Northern.
Yeah. No, they've got to get under got to get in the win column here after just getting crushed by Orchard Lake St. Mary's last week. They don't want to see themselves start 0-2 with a huge blowout loss. Now on the other side, Midland, respectable win over Cadillac, 35-21. Portage Northern actually won this matchup last year, 37-7. So, again, kind of like we talked about with Dow earlier, Midland could be coming to this with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and Portage Northern probably needs a bounce back in the worst kind of way. So I think these will be two really hungry teams going after it in week 2.
Yeah, definitely a good opportunity for Midland. Solid win against Cadillac. Portage Northern, you hate to say it, but it's what Orchard Lake St. Mary's does to a lot of these schools.
Yeah.
It's hard to hold it against them too much, and definitely want to see how they bounce back from a tough loss like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge opportunity for both of them, and could be kind of a get right game, and kind of push the momentum in the right direction for both of them.
For sure. All right, next we got one of the sneaky, possibly one of the best games of the week here in Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central at Flat Rock.
Yeah,
Two great smaller schools in Southeast Michigan. Um, Monroe St. Mary's is coming off of their state title game appearance. They lost to Millington there. Flat Rock last year made it to the semifinals before they lost to the eventual champ as well. Flat Rock, always a really strong regular season team, looking to continue that tradition. In Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central, uh, definitely looking to follow up their incredible season last year and try to actually get the win in Ford Field.
yeah, yeah, and they both of these teams had pretty good week ones. St. Mary Catholic Central was able to just kind of dominate and do what they do against Clinton 42-6, and then Flat Rock. I mean, say what you will about Gladwin taking a couple steps back here, but that's still a really good program, and they still handed them 43-26. So both teams coming in with pretty good wins to start the season. So yeah, this should be kind of a really fun matchup to follow along.
Yeah, definitely. Next, we have Coopersville at Grand Rapids West Catholic. Coopersville, one of the big surprises in week one with that 40-13 loss to Ludington. And on the other side, we've got Grand Rapids West Catholic, who lost that lead to Northview and ended up losing that game 32-21.
Yeah, yeah. Both teams have, kind of coming off a rough week one. You know, losing, getting blown out sucks, but also blowing a loss in a game you should have won probably hurts just as much for West Catholics. So both of these teams are going to be really hungry to get back in the win column. Both are good teams still. Um,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, I think that'll be a fun matchup. West Catholic kind of dominated last year in this one. They won 63-28. Huge offensive night for them. We'll see if Coopersville's got any answers for them this year.
Yeah, really want to see how Coopersville bounces back against that surprising result. And Grand Rapids West Catholic, they've got to be coming in here and thinking that we have to play four complete quarters. Can't get distracted. Can't let our foot off the gas. Want to see how the coaches adjust following that.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to show their mental toughness pretty quick. That can be kind of get the snowball rolling in the wrong direction if they let it. So yeah,
Hmm.
it'll take a lot to kind of shake that one off and get back in the win column. But should be a good opponent to do it. If you could beat this team, you should feel pretty good about it. So
Yeah. Next, we have Edwardsburg at St. Joseph.
yeah, yeah, this one was a close one last year. St. Joe got them 36-29. Um, St. Joseph coming off a loss in week one to Niles, which state runner up. You can't hold your head too much about that. And the Eddies were able to defeat McBain 28-21 in week one. So we're still not really sure what either of these teams are legit capable of, but I think this week will tell us a ton.
Yeah, definitely a game to watch and just see if you can start deciphering, frankly, who's good and who's not.
Yeah, yeah. Goose Poop talks all the time about teams that have to kind of burst the bubble, get out there and play someone who plays someone. This will be a good test for both of these teams to kind of burst the bubble in their division and kind of give us a measuring stick of who might be legit in there, especially down in that reach and that Niles, St. Joe, all those teams down there. Sometimes you really don't know because they all kind of play each other, so it's really hard to get any legit measuring sticks. So this could be kind of a fun test for them.
Yeah, this being my first year of doing rankings, I can see why Goose Poop has his numbers start coming out after week four. You don't have a ton of data here, and you're still going off of a lot of preseason hype, and
Yes.
just trying to figure out, who we have here that's the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And this could kind of be one of those games that you find out who the real deal is. But I'm looking forward to this one. I think both of these teams. I think this will be really kind of more of a slugfest. Both of these teams like to kind of get it done in the trenches. So I think this will be kind of a fun matchup for that.
Yeah. Next, we have Detroit Catholic Central heading to Toledo Central Catholic.
Yeah, yeah, both of these teams coming off of very different weeks. DCC kind of was able to cruise past Chippewa Valley 41-7. Central Catholic's going to be hungry. They, as we talked about earlier with Cass Tech, they were this far from getting the win over a really good Cass Tech team. I mean, that game was insane. There was like 20 something D1 kids on those teams alone. So just pretty crazy. So and this one's going to be very similar. I mean, DCC's incredibly talented. I think both of these teams have a legit shot at, making deep playoff runs in their respective, states. So, yeah, should be a fun one.
Yeah. Uh, a couple of teams that we're used to seeing around the top level for Detroit Catholic Central, at least in the state of Michigan. Love seeing any of these Detroit teams take on one of the schools out of Ohio, just because always nice to get a win over Ohio any way we can.
Yes.
And seeing, like you said, a couple of teams that just tons of talent top to bottom. And it's no different playing Detroit Catholic Central now. So curious to see how Toledo Central Catholic bounces back after that just heartbreaker loss. They're a team with a lot of talent and probably going to be coming in hungry for their first win.
Yeah. Starting off the season 0-2, especially as good as they are, that's pretty crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't see them do that too often. So yeah, that's going to be a really high level game, and I think that's going to be huge. I mean, obviously, it's huge in the conference first conference game. That always kind of has a heightened, bit of urgency
Mm-hmm.
to the win. So yeah, should be a really fun matchup between those teams.
Yeah. And finally, we have our last preview for the week, Ottawa Lake Whiteford versus Harbor Beach. This is the first ever meeting for these two great teams. And funnily enough, meeting in the middle at Davison.
Yeah, and I will. I don't know about you, but I'll be there. So if you plan on being there, I'm definitely going to be there. That's going to be a fun one. It's not far for me at all here, about an hour drive. So, and to see both of those teams, I mean, usually you have to make a few hour drive from where we're at.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, no, not a bad deal at all to go see them on a Saturday. So, yeah, small little powerhouse schools that tend to be really really good. And they kind of are getting out of their regions, to branch out from the thumb and branch out from kind of that, Ohio border area.
Hmm.
I think that's going to be a really fun one.
Yeah, definitely a fun matchup. One that, like you said, it's a good opportunity for just fans of the sport to check out a couple of teams that you're not going to see very often.
No, nope, they don't play in this area very often, so it'll be a fun time to see them. But yeah, good week one performances for both of them. Harbor Beach kind of beat down Cass City 42-8 in week one, and then Ottawa Lake Whiteford blew out Blissfield 56-0. So both teams coming in pretty confident, should be feeling pretty good about themselves, and I think both of these teams have legit shots at getting deep playoff runs. So yeah, should be a really fun matchup between two pretty interesting schools.
Yeah, definitely two schools I would not be surprised to, see making a quarter semi or even seeing them in Detroit.
Yeah, I've already seen Ottawa Lake Whiteford in Detroit a couple years ago when they played Ubley. So yeah, I would not be stunned to see them at least get close once again. So be interesting to see this game.
All right. Well, we've got an exciting week too. Uh,
Yeah,
that just about does it for our games previews for the week.
yeah.
We will be back with you guys following the games to give you the breakdown, scores, and recaps of some of these games and any other surprises that happen to jump out at us.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Should be a really fun week.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I'm Brayden at Mi Gameday. This is Tyler at MICHFB Frenzy. You can check me out at migameday.com.
Yeah, good, tons of good stuff there. Lots of pictures. Got pictures up from the Rockford Saline game. So yeah, go check them out.
Yeah. And Tyler over here. Always check him out on Prep Red Zone. You can check him out on our site. Listen along here, or give him a follow on. Boy, there's not a social media platform you aren't on.
Correct. Yeah. No, I'm bull rushing the market. So yeah, and I've got links to all my socials on all my socials, so you should be able to find me pretty easy anywhere you want.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening, everyone. Till next time.